Hey, Krista.
Hey, Sarah.
We're back for season 2, baby.
Right? Who would have thought we'd be back for another one?
I know. We still have so many things to talk about.
So I guess I'll see you Tuesday? Hey, girl.
Hey, what's up?
Just doing the things over here. Living the regular life. Striving for the dream.
Aren't we all?
Yeah. I mean, ideally, I want to live a life of luxury without having to do a lot of work for it.
Well, kind of speaking along those lines, do you want to tell everyone what we're chatting about today?
I see what you did there. Sure. We are going to talk about budgeting, which I think is a very timely topic. And it's something that we all have to review at some point in our lives, probably all through our lives. Tools in order to help us budget. We're going to talk a little through about some tips, give a little bit of stats, and talk about the things that you don't consider when making a budget. Does that sound kosher?
Can't wait. Well, so the first question I have for you, Krista, is do you have a budget?
It's a great question. I'm glad that you asked me it. So the short answer is no, I don't currently have a budget, but I've spent in my earlier years doing a budget or living by a budget when I made a lot less money. And to this day, I still maintain certain habits that I did during my budget, but I don't live on a pauper's kind of budget of monitoring every dime that goes in and out of my account anymore.
Got it. Well, and I think that's kind of normal. I feel like, in your early, late teens, early 20s, when you're not making that much money, you need to make your money go further. So I think creating a budget, that's fantastic that you did.
I never had a budget in my teens, though.
Oh,
in my 20s.
Early 20s. Late 20s?
I did not have a budget in my early 20s because I didn't have enough money for it. I wouldn't even consider how I was living budget conscious because broke is broke.
Yeah.
University student broke is broke.
Yeah.
So that didn't kick in until later.
Gotcha. You asked me if I have a budget. No, not day to day, but throughout my life, especially when I've had to kind of move to different places. So prior to me moving, then I would really crunch all the numbers associated with it to figure out, can I actually afford this or not? So there has been moments in my life where I would do that. And maybe I would kind of do that for a month and kind of see everything. But then,
Sure.
After I made that big move or whatever, I would not continue.
Yeah, I'm the same. And I think that speaks to a theme that we'll probably talk about throughout this episode of having a goal. Mm-hmm. So when there's a goal in mind, you have to get laser focused.
Yeah.
And whether that goal is something that you're proactively pursuing or something that you're reacting to. I know at least 2 times in my life I really had to hunker down. One is buying your first real property. Mm-hmm. Starting to save your money. And then the other was when I left a job and I had to take a pay cut. So then my expenses changed I had a very luxurious taste, but then I definitely had a pauper's budget and I had to kind of rein it in and start to reevaluate my pennies.
Yeah, totally. Absolutely. And honestly, to this day, not that I stick to a budget, but I definitely make sure all my money is in my bank account on a daily basis.
Oh, okay.
I'm that person that checks it like a crazy person. And I'm aware. So I look at my Visa statement and I'm just aware of everything. Hey, what are we spending our money on? What do we need to cut back? Yeah. What was a big purchase or expense this month? Okay. Mental note. Let's rein it in a little bit, but I'm not going to actually input it to an app or an Excel or something like that. It's just a quick mental note in my head, but that's it.
When you were more focused on budgeting for a big purchase or an event in your life, did you use any kind of tools to kind of manage your finances?
The only thing I use, well, what I can remember is just the basic old Excel.
Right? Just a good old spreadsheet.
Yeah.
Same. I definitely managed it that way. And I managed like my regular like banking and like money in and money out and like my credit card at the time of like, how much is this statement going to be? Like, what are my purchases? How much do I need to pay down? Definitely good old spreadsheets.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm sure nowadays there's actually like apps and websites that you can, that'll help you, right?
I want to say though that there still are spreadsheets or Google Sheets that you can buy on like Etsy for budgeting. Those things still exist. They're just fancier.
Yeah, for sure. And they're prettier.
They're fancier. Yeah.
Aesthetically pleasing.
They're automated. Yeah. There are budgeting apps. I'd never heard of any of these because I'm beyond that, I guess, age-wise. But some of the popular ones is one called Mint.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of that one. Well, I feel like I've seen it on social media, like sponsored or whatever.
Well, if your phone is anywhere near you right now, you are going to start to see ads for that on Instagram or YouTube.
So
Another one is called YNAB, which is called You Need a Budget.
Oh.
Yeah, right? And then the two others that I have listed here are Pocket Guard and Every Dollar.
Okay.
I have no idea how they work, what they look like, or what's entailed, but those are I think the most popular apps out there to help you stick to a budget. I like to like see things on like a bigger screen, so maybe that's why like Excel is like gives like full picture. Another thing is we talked about is spreadsheets, and then the thirdly, which I still kind of use today, is online banking.
Yes.
As a tool. Yeah. I definitely set up like alerts on my phone to like when I've overspent in a certain category on like my credit card or something to like let me know like, hey, you're buying too much Amazon.
Stop that.
Yeah.
That's Amazon smart. I love that.
Number one, like overspend. Especially when like Prime would give you stuff the next day.
Yeah, for sure. But that's a really great feature.
Yes. Well, I definitely use the alerts, and I think another part of it is like I have automatic transfers to like for when I get my paycheck to like move money to like savings and stuff like right away. So
yes. I think that's really important. Like, even if you're starting out and you're not making that much money, or regardless of where you are in your life, I think you should just set that up with your bank to do automatic transfers. So it's pretty much as soon as you like try to line it up with your pay. So as soon as you get paid, it'll take a chunk of money and it'll throw it into different, savings accounts for you. And you don't even have to think about it. The money is literally in your bank account and then it's out of your bank account. So you don't even touch it. And then in the background, you are saving money. And I think that's fantastic.
I agree. I would say that I probably did that from like when I had my first job.
Yes,
like my
me too.
First real job.
Yeah.
Now, you probably did a little bit more of transferring money around in those instances. And I am going to date myself because when I was doing it, there was no online banking. You had maybe telephone banking, but to like do all of that banking stuff, you either had to like physically go into the bank or like go to the bank machine. So there's no reason why at this time with this technology that you can't set up those type of things on your phone for your bank account.
Yeah. And again, you set up it once and then you don't even think about it. And then it just kind of grows in the background for you, which is great. And even if you do like $20, that's something, right?
Exactly. So I forget what the rule of thumb is. I think you're supposed to set aside 10% into your savings so that you can still like live off of like the remainder, but you're still kind of building something every month or every 2 weeks.
50-30-20 rule.
50-30-20. Oh, okay.
Yeah, so 20% towards savings. That's what they say.
Okay. For somebody young, that might be a little high, but yeah, because you're making like $350-$400 every 2 weeks or something. But yeah. Okay, good to know. 50-30-20. But can we talk a little bit about what that means?
Yes. Have you heard of that before?
I've heard of ratios before, but for some reason, like that's not ringing any bells. It doesn't mean that that's not true. But I've heard of the ratio before, but I just don't know.
So the 50-30-20 rule is recommending putting 50% of your money towards your needs, 30% money towards your wants, and 20% towards savings. Savings or like debt.
Got it. Okay. So the way you'd start that out is like you take your net pay and you kind of would like apply those percentages to see what that looks like. And then from there, you take your regular expenses as needs. You evaluate all of those ancillary expenses like streaming and subscriptions and all that and measure them as like, do I really want this?
Exactly.
And then what was the last category again?
Savings or debt.
Savings or debt. Yeah. Right. So you have to make the trade-off between putting money away to save or like paying down a bill or paying down student loans.
Absolutely.
I definitely had a student loan that I had to pay down when I was out of school.
Yeah. I feel like a lot of people do.
Yeah. And they don't, a lot of people don't pay attention to that, I feel like. Like they don't account for that when they're kind of running the numbers on their financial means and what they actually have to work with money-wise.
No, that's important. Pay it off as soon as you can.
So I think that this ties into what I was going to talk about next is really, and we've been talking about it, is like understanding your own financial situation. I think if you don't really write down all of your expenses or get a sense of your expenses, you're always living over your means. So it's like your fixed expenses, like rent, any like regularly occurring bills that you have, even as a young person, even as an old person, you know, what do you spend on groceries or eating or whatever?
Yeah.
And then I think that a lot of people don't account for, and we've talked about this, I think, briefly in another episode related to like watching TV, is understanding like how much you're paying in cable, but streaming.
Yes, absolutely. I was going to say a streaming service, those add up because you might have like 4 or something and you're paying it per month. And I think, sorry, Krista, any of the like ordering food apps add up as well.
Yes.
So like the Uber Eats and the, I don't know, et cetera, et cetera. And
yeah, because they have membership fees as well.
Exactly. And you're paying a lot of, like, it's a lot of money.
Yeah, so you better use it.
No. It depends what your situation is. It depends where you're going. But any of the, like, the Ubers and the Lyfts and everything like that adds up quickly as well.
Yeah, so I think you always have to make a trade-off in what you're spending on and what makes sense and what you should make a sacrifice on.
Yeah.
So I'm super frugal when it comes to, like, Uber around the city. If my 2 feet are working, I'm walking.
Yeah, 100%.
I'm rarely taking an Uber.
Yeah.
Because I pay for other stuff. Another thing that ties into the subscriptions is when you have subscriptions to like subscription boxes. So you can like, for women anyway, or however you identify where you like makeup, the ones where you can get these samples of like beauty products. There's like FabFitFun. There's all these other ones I can't remember, Lushbox or something. There's like Fabletics.
Yeah.
There's Just Fab. All of these other things as well. And it's like if you don't skip a month, you get charged like $50 US or something.
Oh my God.
Yeah. You have to like stay on top of your subscriptions. And those are charged to your credit card. So going back to your point, it stands to reason that at least once a month you should look at your statement online, but at least twice a month when you like make sure that your pay has gone into your bank account.
Totally. And then after a while, you know, when you're looking at your statement month over month, you'll realize kind of what you're, you know, tend to spend more money on than other things. So maybe you could like cut back on other things, kind of focus on the things that you like and vice versa. Or maybe you need to like, you know, rein in everything a little bit more that month. Yeah. And it just depends what your needs and wants and desires are too, right? Because you are allowed to treat yourself once in a while.
And I think it's just making that balance. I think especially for anything that you do is like part of like self-care that you want to include that also can be more expensive, like getting our nails done, getting our feet done, getting our hair done are expenses, but also it's to make us feel good. So you want to, it's a trade-off between like what is something that you're going to probably can't live without versus something that you need to like take a concession on.
Yeah.
Making trade-offs and making concessions means like you don't ever not go out with your friends, right? I remember when I was like really struggling with money, I'd be like, I can go out with my friends, but I can only go out twice a month.
Right.
And I can only spend like $50 to $60. And back in those days also, I used to, I think like every week or every 2 weeks, I would physically pull money out, which was like my budget. So then I was paying by cash because when you're not paying by cash, that money just racks up.
Mm-hmm. And that was actually one of my tips. That was one of my tips. Was like kind of live off cash and see where that goes. And then like, I think you can buy like a cash binder. I know I went on TikTok and I saw it, and you can like categorize it for like different things like shopping or like whatever. And then you could like plug in like $50 into it. And then the end of the month, you go through the binder and you see how much money you have left.
That's very much similar to a method used by this TV personality that used to be on in like the early 2000s. Her name was Gail Vaz Oxlade, and she used to have two different shows, one called Till Debt Do Us Part and one called Princess.
Yes.
Remember that? Yes. So she was a financial expert that used to help couples get out of serious debt. And I used to watch this religiously, one, because she's Jamaican and that's my ethnicity, so represent for Jamaica. But two, one of the girls I went to high school was on the show.
Was on the Princess show?
No, she was on the Till Debt Do Us Part show. So she was married. She worked for the Go, and her husband worked for the Go, and they had like a mixed family, and they were in debt, and they made really good money.
Yikes.
But they just had no clue how to like budget.
That's a good show. Yeah, I secretly love all of those shows because I will watch them. And because the people will be in mega debt, which is like understandable, but then like the person that comes in will like help them and give them tips and tricks and support them for that month or whatever. Oh, I love it.
The thing about Gail, which goes to your cash binder, is she used to make them put the money in the jars.
Exactly.
Being like, this is your budget.
Figure it out.
You're gonna have to cheap it out. You have $20 for entertainment for the month, and they're like, what?
Yeah, but I think that's good because a credit card is very dangerous. But if you actually like have the cash in your hand, you're like, oh no, I only have $10.50 left. I can't do that.
And then you're really doing the cost benefit analysis every time you make a purchase of like, is it worth it?
Exactly.
Rather than like doing an add to cart mindlessly and then charging it to the credit card.
Exactly. That's a good one.
So that plays into a bigger topic then of like setting goals for what you want. And then that probably depends on different ages and stages in your life, right? Like, I think I started getting clearer on budgeting when I knew that I wanted to actually buy a property. And I'm like, I need to hunker down because I need to get to a certain amount for my down payment. I need a certain amount to pay for like furniture. I need a certain amount to pay for closing costs. And I was not making good money at that point. But I knew that I was going to save for X amount of time in order to start looking at X amount of time so that I knew I had enough money to cover everything. And having those goals of like short term, medium term, long term, I think is important also to keep you sticking to a budget.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's fantastic. So how long did you do that for?
Let's see. I think I was saving for 2 to 3 years. At one point I was working 2 jobs, and this was like me like post secondary. So it's not even like I was in high school working 2 jobs. I was like working in a corporate world, and then I had a side retail job that I would do for a few months just to like make ends meet. I couldn't sustain it. It was too tiring, but because I had that goal in mind, because I wanted to feel like I had enough saved up so that I could feel like I wasn't just putting all my money into a property and then it's like I have nothing.
Good for you. Good for you. And you stuck to your budget, you stuck to your goals, and eventually you were able to do it. But it takes hard work.
It takes discipline. It takes sacrifice. And I think that's what people struggle with the most. And I understand that, is that you have to go without. I think the first time that I really saved, though, before that was like going on my first real vacation after university, like without my family.
Yeah.
And it's like, I had to pay for it. You have to buy new clothes. And I'm like, okay, I want to go at this point. I want to try and have this money budgeted. So you're just putting away little bits and little bits.
Absolutely.
I did whatever side jobs I could to like make extra money.
Totally. Or to buy those clothes back in like high school or university and college to make yourself look cool, and to go on those trips by yourself without your family or your parents. Absolutely. Or to move out, even if just like to rent, you still need the first and last month.
That's right.
Deposit or check. So yeah, you need to save. And I feel like if you slowly start when you're young, like if you get your first job and you slowly just put like $10 away, it'll help when you are really wanting to save.
Exactly. I agree. And going back to setting like goals for yourself, the one they have to be realistic. I feel like maybe that those shows that I watch really kind of created certain things embedded in my mind that maybe that I didn't even know just by watching TV that I was actually creating these habits, because the next thing I have listed here is like an emergency fund.
Yes.
And I've always had that. Mm-hmm. I was thinking going to this conversation that budgeting, I'm like, this is going to be a shit show. But I'm like, no, you know what? I have the bones.
I've done all of this. Yeah. Whether it's called an emergency fund or whether it's called savings or a different savings account. Yeah. I think that's very crucial because you don't know what's going to happen in life. And it's always good to have some fallback money just in case.
For sure. I definitely always tried to do that. When you're younger and you're making like hourly wage, that's definitely harder. So you be like, is it emergency fund or savings, or is it neither? But I always wanted to have money. When you become like a homeowner, you want to be able to have money so that if you fall in hard times, you want to be able to like cover your expenses.
Yeah.
So you don't lose stuff. So that's super crucial. I still maintain that to this day. Mm-hmm. It's definitely helped me out in terms of like being jobless at certain points in my career and still needing to pay bills and pulling from that in order to kind of keep myself afloat.
Yeah. That's
They say you should aim for 3 to 6 months worth of living expenses, which is a lot.
That's a lot for an emergency fund. That's a lot.
Well, if you take into account if you have a car payment, if you have a mortgage payment, if you have just, insurance, electricity, all that kind of shit, water, that you do, 3 is probably more realistic to try and aim for.
Yeah.
But it's important to have that there.
Absolutely.
The rainy day fund. I mean, people with houses, like I live in a condo. Sarah lives in a house, but it's like at some point you have to like replace your roof. Like who saves for that?
Yeah. Yeah. Good stuff. It's funny though, because I bet you when you were younger and you were living, at home, you didn't think about anything. You used as much toilet paper as you wanted. You turned on all the lights. You used all the water in the shower, right? Like it's so funny. But then when you get your own place, I know I do this. When I leave a room, I always turn the lights off. I don't think I ever did that at home. Sorry, Mom. And like certain things like that, I'm like, I'm more conscious of it now than I was.
Definitely. It's amazing when you're paying for something, how you view something differently. My mom was always yelling about us with lights on and stuff and using all this stuff. So you just don't care about it when you're being yelled about it. But when you have to like pay the bill, it really does hit different.
Yeah, exactly.
Though I am notorious for leaving lights on to this day because my ADHD just doesn't compute. Because I'm like, I'll be back here shortly, so I'm not going to turn the light off.
4 hours later.
Yeah. Oh, and the next day.
What else do you have on your list?
I think to kind of tie it all together is that you're always going to have to do a check-in, whether it's like every 6 months or every year with like your budget, depending on how your financial situation changes, whether you get a promotion and you're making more money now, so you have more bandwidth, or in an instance that happened to me is like I left a job and started a new job and I took a significant pay cut. So then and I didn't budget right away. So then I felt that pressure where it's like, I don't have any money. And now I need to start brown banking it again. I need to like cut back. I can't buy clothes anymore. The clothing budget now is out the window. All of those things come to a halt because I make the trade-off that I need to pay my debt first, which is like building up, getting myself out of negatives, building up my savings again, and doing all that stuff because I was leaning on it during those times.
Yeah.
And they do talk about debt management in the sense of like determining where your debt payments are going to have the most effect. Like paying off high interest cards. I'm not a proponent of taking on debt, but it's like try and figure out the smartest way to do debt. So if you do have a credit card, but you have a line of credit and you have a lower interest rate, they'll definitely fucking move the credit card balance to the line of credit and then pay it there because you'll pay it down faster. Now, I'm not saying keep doing it, but I'm just saying like find smart ways to like have your actual debt payment go further.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's crazy. Do you have any stats? I have a few stats that kind of blew my mind in a way about budgeting and things like that.
I have some stats. Of course, they're US based, so they won't completely carry over into us in the Canadian market, but some are still important. 40% of adults in the US wouldn't be able to cover a $400 emergency expense without borrowing or selling something.
That speaks volumes.
So people can't afford to live.
Yeah.
And I don't think that speaks to the fact that they don't have budgets. I think that just speaks to the fact of like people don't make enough money to actually keep up with life.
Yeah. Yeah. Because life is very expensive nowadays.
Another interesting stat was 32% of Americans create a detailed budget each month.
Oh.
According to a US bank. That's still low, but I'm like, at least somebody's doing it.
Mm-hmm.
But 60% of Americans do report that they do feel stressed about money. And that makes total sense to me.
I'm surprised that number is not higher. 60%?
Well, there probably is a big chunk of that group that's in the 40% that are just homeless. And like, you don't even need to ask them. They are displaced.
Yeah. Jeez. I know I was on Google just like doing some research prior, and it said, and this is all Canadian based, average Canadians are $21,000 in debt. So the average Canadian is over $21,000 in debt.
And what year is that from?
This year, 2023.
This year. Interesting. I have a stat from 2020 for U.S. credit card debt, and they said the average was $5,300.
Oh.
So Canadians are more indebted than Americans. I mean, it's not apples to apples because it's just credit card debt.
Yikes.
But that number is kind of low.
Mm-hmm. And then just even in terms of saving, this year, a stat from this year indicates that less than 25% of Canadians contribute to an RRSP, which is a registered retirement savings plan.
Right. So for Americans, it would be like the equivalent to a 401k.
Yeah.
Some companies don't offer, like, I don't even know if I'm thinking about it now, but you don't think about that in your younger years, whether or not the company offers an RSP that they match to, whether you put it away in an RSP.
Yeah.
Now the thing is, like, do you invest and diversify and like buy stock and things, trade stock, get into crypto? It becomes more and more complicated with the things that you need to invest in. And if you don't understand, I can understand why people just don't do it.
100%. It's not like everyone has pensions nowadays. It's everyone's like, oh, we'll match your RSP. And it's like, I don't know. Most companies are kind of crappy matching with their matching RSP. Some companies are great, but others are, oh, we'll match you like 2%. Thanks.
You're making a really good call out. Like, most companies nowadays don't have an RSP or matching program. Definitely the startups don't. They'll offer you like RSUs, which is like registered stock units, and you have to be there a year before you can like get it.
Got
you don't.
it.
That's it, right? Like, there's no pension, there's no RSP, there's nothing.
Yeah.
But unlimited PTO.
Funny. Oh, jeez.
I'm trying to see if I had any other insightful stats that I would provide for this conversation. I think I've covered everything that was important or relevant to this conversation. But there are things that we didn't talk about that people don't consider when budgeting. Mm-hmm. Before I dig into that, was there anything related to what we talked about before that you wanted to dig into?
No, I don't think so.
So things that people don't consider when budgeting, that I don't know if you can consider them or how do you quantify these things, but things like irregular expenses. So I kind of mentioned like roofs need to be replaced every 10 years, windows, like stuff that you just not saving for that it's going to happen, or like a major leak in your house or something, like those things that you're not thinking of. I think going to someone's wedding at this point even is an expense you don't think about. Because that's, if you go back to our going to the chapel episode, like that can get expensive as a guest.
Yeah.
So those can definitely throw your budget out of balance when those things come up.
I also feel like, sorry, Krista, I just want to say a point. I also think that like around the holidays, specifically Christmas, it's quite a stressful time for people in general, because, money's tight, but they still want to have a great Christmas.
For sure.
And I think once January of the following year comes around, people went too hard at Christmas time, and now they're in debt.
For sure. Do you or did you ever have like a budget at Christmas of how much you want to spend on gifts? Because I know I did.
I do now. I have there's a rough number in my head. Yeah, absolutely. Because to be honest, I don't think, anyone, my family and friends, no one, quote unquote, needs anything.
Yeah.
It's whether or not I want to it's a want, or here's something cute and here's something this, so I try just to set a budget for people. And at the end of the day, I don't need any gifts. I'd rather just spend time with people. That's the true gift.
Yeah, for some people. I think it gets challenging if you, in your family though, everybody ends up having kids, and then it becomes about the kids' gifts. Yeah. I know, for instance, my sister and my cousin, they negotiate how much the gift limit will be every year because there's a lot of kids.
Yikes.
Which I think is fair, right? And video games and all that kind of stuff is super expensive. But if you put a cap $30 per kid or something, then you know that you're not going to break the bank.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And that's smart.
Yeah. And again, these are situations where the parents can provide everything for these kids anyway. So getting a little something from your cousin is good, nice, because you're still getting your big gaming console from your parents on Christmas Day.
Yeah. At this point, my kids are so young. Them just opening a gift is so exciting to them. The gift itself is meh, but opening a gift is the thrill.
Right. And all the other things the boxes that it comes in and stuff is yeah, this is amazing. It's yeah, but I spent $100 on the actual present.
I know. Did you see what's in the box?
If you don't have anything further to add, I was going to move on to something that's very prevalent and on top of everybody's mind now when it comes to budgeting is inflation and the increase of prices of everything.
Yes.
And it goes back to maybe having to reevaluate your budget every month because even being able to eat and buy groceries is expensive.
100%.
At least it is up here in Canada. Groceries are not cheap.
No, and depending on what grocery store you go to, all their food is a different friggin' price.
Mm-hmm.
And I hate playing that game, but in my mind, if I don't like that price, I'm not going to buy it. If it's on my list, nope, I'm not going to buy you. Don't eat it.
Yeah.
No, I'm not spending $7 for blueberries. Sorry.
Or even the cost of gas to go between different grocery stores for different things that are cheaper.
Honestly. And wasn't in the States a few months ago, eggs were so pricey.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know either way. Maybe.
Mm-hmm. Which is insane because eggs is a pretty essential food item.
You would think it's the perfect food according to anybody that's not a vegan.
Yeah. But also you put so much in eggs too. You put you bake with eggs and all sorts of things, right?
Valid.
So
valid. You were better off just buying a chicken then.
Yeah, just
a hen.
Have a little farm in your backyard.
Which people do more and more.
Yeah.
I don't know if I would, but you do what you got to do.
But I think there's I don't do this, but maybe I should. There are different apps for grocery stores. I think there's an app called Flip that tells you what's on sale at what grocery store to help the consumer out. In Canada, we don't have the amount of coupons that they have in the US. Right. I don't know if you've seen the TLC show Extreme Couponing.
Extreme Couponing.
Yeah, our coupons are very strict. It's pretty rare if you get a few. But yes, I've seen that show and it's awesome. But there are coupons that you can use to kind of hope to save money as well. And I'm sure there's other apps and other ways too that you can save money on groceries as well.
There is one Canadian Instagrammer who is an extreme couponer who's able to get at the US level of couponing, but again, that's rare because the rebates are not the same as they are in the US because things are more expensive because we just can't produce at scale like the US can. So it definitely. Another thing that I have here that you don't account for in your budget, and I don't know how often this happens for people, is impulse purchases.
Yes.
Okay. That resonates with you, huh?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because you're just walking through a store and they're oh, something catches your eye and you're oh, this would be helpful. Okay, I'm going to get it. Because it depends what store you're at. If you're at a Home Sense or a Winners or a Costco, if you don't get it that day, good luck ever finding it again.
I've heard that a few times. It's it's there when it's there, and then if you don't get it, then you lose.
Yeah, exactly. So I will buy it, If I return it, that's a different story, but I'm probably going to buy it in that moment because I know if I go back home and then think about it and then go back to the store, boom, it's gone.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one.
I'm an online shopper, so like I feel like a lot of times everything is impulse, but at the same time it's not, because like my bill is Uber Eats and Amazon. And Amazon, like what you see what I buy at Amazon is just, it's literally like household stuff most of the time.
Yeah.
Vitamins. I spend a lot of money on vitamins.
You should do the Amazon subscription to save some money.
I did it for a long time, but then I wasn't keeping track of it all the time. So sometimes I would be like, they're overcharging me for something they never sent me. So I had to like cut back on that.
Got it.
Because then I would just like, I had stockpiled all of these cleaning, what's it called?
Supplies.
Cleaning sprays and stuff.
Oh,
yeah. And it was right before the pandemic too. So I had all of these Lysol wipes already stockpiled.
Yes.
And a bunch of toilet paper.
Oh my gosh.
So I was set.
I should have come to your house. Jeez.
Right. Yeah, because of the subscription, but I stopped doing it now because I'm like, I'm spending too much money. I'm not managing it on a monthly basis in the way that I should.
No, that's valid. That's valid. And I think, and sorry, to go back to kind of like groceries and food, just like eating out, like going to a restaurant these days are so pricey. So if you can, I know it takes extra time and lots of planning and everything like that, but if you can pack your lunch and take it to work, it'll save yourself like literally $10 to $15 or $20.
I definitely went through phases,
right?
Packing my lunch and buying my lunch.
Like, it's so expensive. Or like, you know, take your coffee if you can, like, to go rather than like stopping at Starbucks and getting a $7 coffee. Like, oh my gosh. Sorry, no offense, Starbucks. I like you, but your prices are crazy.
I stopped going to Starbucks in the morning, going into the office because the wait time was so long because I wouldn't order ahead that I'm like, I would get annoyed. So I'm like, I'm done with this. It's just like lemon refresher tea that's in the kitchen at work. It's just like, that's just going to have to do because all I would buy is tea at Starbucks anyway.
Yeah, exactly. See, there you go. You're saving money.
I am. Yeah, because I just took a look at my budget and I'm like, girl, rein it in.
It's true. Like another one I think is and not food related, it's clothes. Because we live in Canada and we have 4 very different seasons. I think Canadians have lots of different lots of clothes in general. But after a while, you get tired of your clothes and you want new clothes. Clothes cost a lot of money, and you need like a separate like category for clothes because it's crazy. But if you lived in like a warmer climate, you would have like, I don't know, lots of clothes, but one climate. So I feel like it would be easier. But in Canada, you need to have like your winter gear, your boots, your scarves, your hat, your everything, and then like your summer, your shoes. Like there's so much that it can, and then, you know, if you're younger, you want to, you know, stay on trend with everything, and you can definitely go into debt. I feel like clothes shopping.
I definitely had a clothes shopping addiction back in my early 20s. Like it definitely put me into debt because I was like, I need something new all the time, and I wasn't even buying designer. So I completely understand that. It ties hand in hand to what I have listed here is like lifestyle changes, because when you're talking about the different seasons and like every couple of years you have to like get a new winter jacket or get new boots because there's wear and tear and all that kind of stuff. But then when you like expand your family, let's say, then the budget changes and then those are clothes for the kids won't stop growing.
Jeez, tell me about it.
Right? Like you're going through that now where it's like the kids will need a fall jacket. They will need rubber boots. They're going to need a winter jacket. We'll just, you know, the little baby's going to need a little baby snowsuit or whatever those things are called.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And then you have to prioritize. Obviously, you're going to prioritize what your kids need over you. And then your wardrobe just falls to the curb, but that's okay. Kids grow through clothes so quickly, but there are different places you can go to like save on clothes like that. You can go to like thrift store. You can go to like Value Village. You can go to like Once Upon a Child to like kind of save on like gently used clothing as well. You can buy new as well, or, you know, hand-me-downs from other people. But yeah, kids' clothes or, you know, things in general is quite expensive because they're only in them literally for one season.
madness. I can't even. Going back to kind of reevaluating, not even so much on the clothing budget, but going back to like subscriptions and memberships. I never talked about like memberships as an option, but one thing that I reevaluated after the pandemic and is like gym memberships, and whether or not that to me is like an actual valid like expense that I want to maintain, and what are the alternatives to that I do instead. So instead of like getting Good Life is really popular in Canada. I don't know if it really exists in the US. If it does, it's in very, very few states. But it's still an expense, and it's still something that's not even like, it's a financial expense, but it's a time expense because you have to like schedule going to the gym. It takes extra time. So like I pay for monthly subscriptions for things that are similar to that I can do at home. So like those classes that I would have done inside the gym, you can actually have a subscription to get access to those same classes in my own like family room or living room, and I can do it there. So it's like $65 every 3 months versus like whatever it is nowadays. I think it's between $500 and $600 a year, whatever that works out to per pay. I'm like, I don't want to do that.
Yeah. And that's smarter, you know. I think that's actually would motivate people more if they don't actually have to leave their house to go work out. So that's great that you found that.
Some people it doesn't though. Some people it doesn't at all. They say that they want to be back into the gym, and I'm like, whatever gets you moving. But at any point I'm ready. Well, I also have a gym in my building, but like at any point I might change or have a free time to do a workout, and then I can just do it at home and knock it out.
Yeah, definitely.
And then be done, right?
Yeah.
Going back to clothing, and I didn't mean to change gears like that when you talked about it, is that one of the unexpected costs is like, especially for kids, is like back to school clothes and stuff.
Yeah, because you want to look
like
cute
play
on
clothes.
your first day of school.
Well, and that doesn't change until like you're out of high school. It's just like, if you don't end up going to like a school that requires a uniform, you're carrying that out for like a long time. So that's very, very steep on a parent's budget.
And like the chokehold that Abercrombie and Hollister had on my generation back in like high school was insane.
It was so expensive.
So expensive. Yeah, no, absolutely. But it's everything, right? It's not just clothes. It's like the backpack, and then you want like the bento box lunch box, and then you want like the cute cell phone case, and you want like et cetera, right?
I remember looking through the flyers, the back to school flyers, being like, I want this notebook.
Totally.
I want this like highlighter, whatever, the latest pen.
Yeah, but now it's even more expensive because like, oh, I want this like laptop. It's like, what?
Yeah, literally. It's like, it's not $200, it's $2,000.
Exactly. And I think we touched upon this in another episode. I think staycation versus vacation, the episode. Going on trips, because I really think people have to budget for trips now because they're so freaking expensive. Doesn't matter where you're going.
Flying is expensive.
100%.
And there's additional costs for trying to find your bag after, apparently.
Yeah, and like hopefully your flight doesn't get canceled or delayed 1,000 hours.
Yeah, my cousin just told me he ran into that problem coming back from Turks and Caicos, and he flew into LaGuardia and all the flights were canceled, and he needed to be at work the next day.
Nice. Love that. So like on top of you're paying for this expensive trip that you probably budgeted for in advance. Now you're like stressed. Now like, oh my gosh, no. That's terrible.
Life is stressful.
Yeah.
I have one more thing about what people don't consider when doing a budget. And I've run into this recently, which is why I want to talk about it.
Okay.
Career development and education.
Okay.
So, up-leveling your skills to like move up in your career, whether it's some kind of designation, it's an exam to get a designation, it's the next level of education, like an MBA or a PhD or whatever that is. People do consider that, and they are in situations where they have to budget for that, whether they have a family or whether they live alone. And those aren't things that you necessarily think about when creating a budget, but does tie back into what are your short-term goals and what are your long-term goals. And if your long-term goal is to, for me, for instance, I'm considering again, 10 years ago I considered, and I'm considering again, do I get my MBA to like move up in my career? And that's a serious expense.
I was going to say that's probably a good chunk of change.
Yeah. Those are in the tens of thousands of dollars.
Yeah. But that's absolutely, but like you have to really plan for it and budget for it if that's what you truly want, and make sacrifices.
Exactly. You always have to make a trade-off.
Yeah, exactly.
So I hope talking about those things, they actually made me feel better. One other thing that I will mention that isn't necessarily relevant to you or I currently, Sarah, is taxes. Mm-hmm. Only if you're a self-employed person, because when you're a self-employed person, your federal and provincial taxes aren't being remitted automatically to the government. Your CPP and your employment insurance premium aren't automatically being taken out of paycheck. You get paid gross. So you have to like budget. What do you think you're going to make this year as a result of what do you think you're going to make? What are you going to have to pay to the government in taxes? And those are things that for those that are self-employed have to think about. And more often than not, they learn the hard way when they file their taxes as a self-employed person that first year and have to pay back a chunk of money because it was never remitted from their paycheck in the first place. And that's a big wake-up call.
Yeah, good call out. That's good. That's smart. I think with all this being said and how crucial money and budgeting and saving is, I think there should be more classes in school about it.
Mm-hmm. So true. It reminds me of that meme where it's like, I don't know how to do my taxes, but thank God they taught me about parallelograms.
Because that's helpful.
Because parallelogram season is coming up, folks. So we all got to get prepared.
Exactly. I think, I don't know, whenever you start basic math, you should start little like savings and just start slowly talking about that. And as you progress in school, get more and more advanced.
Or investment. So to piggyback on that, investment isn't something that people don't think about budgeting for either.
Yeah. I think there should be more courses and classes
on life.
Yeah, truly.
Well, I think we've covered all relevant points regarding budgeting.
Yeah, just kind of like budgeting 101 from our take. We are not professionals at all. This was just kind of our stab at it.
Yeah, but we're professional adults. Like we've been doing it. Give yourself some kudos. Like none of this stuff was like huge shocks to us. We're already doing some aspects of it.
Yeah, that's valid.
Yeah. But as always, we want listeners to weigh in. What did we miss? What are your thoughts? Share. We love the feedback. Definitely, you can review the podcast on all of the platforms. Any platform that you listen to the podcast on, definitely give us a review.
Just give us a quick 5-star rating before you exit the podcast.
Yeah. And if you don't feel that way, then just shoot us a message and we'll be happy to do an episode with you where we can just talk through. We're open. We're completely open.
Totally.
And to be up to date and all the things that we're working on and all the great content that we want to share, you can definitely follow us on all the social media. We do put all our social media accounts in the episode description to make it easy for you to subscribe and follow.
Yay.
With that said, Miss Sarah, it's always a pleasure to catch up with you, and I will see you next week.
See you on Tuesday. Bye.
Bye.